And welcome to the Barry Foster Show. Glad to have you with us, coming to you from the Ridge Florist Studios in beautiful Avon Park, Florida. We are delighted to have Father Frank Pavone on the line with us. You've seen him in Praying for America on Right Side Broadcasting. He did a faith and values event for the Highlands County Republican Party here in Sebring a little while back, and now I've got a chance to talk to him. Father Pavone, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Barry. It is a joy to be with you and with our audience. Thanks for all you do, and looking forward to our conversation.
Well, let me ask you. In my research, you said you've always been called to be a priest. When did you kind of realize that this was going to be your life's work?
It was in my final year of high school, and before I started thinking about ministry as a priest, I just kind of had a rediscovery of the faith, of the power of prayer, of the scriptures, of Jesus himself. It was a powerful time there. It was like the middle no, wait a minute, let me think. It was just the very beginning of my senior year of high school. So, and interestingly, there was another young man in my class who was going through the similar kind of experience. We were in public school, but we were both sort of rediscovering the Lord. And then as I went through that, I had such a peace, such a joy. And we all know the joy of the Lord when we follow him and when we're faithful to him. And I started thinking, really it would be great for me to be able to spread this to others. And then I started thinking about ministry. So I was only 17 years old.
That's amazing. And then did you go on to a seminary to become a priest?
I sure did. I went right into seminary after high school and did a special 5-year program, which was meant to be preparatory for priesthood. And then what you have to do after that is take like another 4.5 years just of theology. But in between there, I took a break. I just went out of high school. I liked it very much, but I took a little work, even dated a little bit. And, I said, Lord, show me which way you want me to go. And after those 3 years, Barry, I was convinced again of my calling to ministry. And so I went back into the seminary.
So where did you attend?
That was St. Joseph's Seminary in Yonkers, New York. It was the seminary, it is still the seminary of the Archdiocese of New York.
So did you serve in a church at the time while you were going to school?
I did. They had us do different kinds of part-time ministry, but the main thing was in our studies. But then once I was ordained, I served in a big parish on Staten Island and was there for like 4.5 years on Staten Island.
Now, when did you get involved in anti-abortion activism? What led you down that particular path?
Well, interestingly, that started right at the same time in my senior year of high school. It started right at the same time as this other dynamic that we were just talking about. And what sparked it was a bus trip to the March for Life in Washington. I'm sure many of our listeners have gone to the annual March for Life, and my town was having a bus go. My mom and grandmother were going. They said, "Do you want to come?" I said yes. And boy, that event really opened my eyes to how big of an issue abortion is in our country, how big of a movement the pro-life movement is. And I was just kind of lit on fire from that experience. Started paying more attention to the issue. And then as the years went on, I was, of course, in seminary, we were learning, the importance of the issue as well. But I was just year after year becoming more and more focused on what this abortion problem is. I mean, that literally we're taking the lives of little babies at their most vulnerable stage of life. I mean, I found it just to be, as we all do, just to be incredible. And so that's how my pro-life involvement got started.
Did you, while you were there at Staten Island, was that the kind of the birthing point, if you will, of Rachel's Vineyard to start that organization?
Well, what happened with that was my time in Staten Island continued to nurture my pro-life calling because I saw how people responded when I would be preaching about it. And I would preach about it very frequently, got involved increasingly in pro-life activities, both locally and nationally. Now, at the same time, in those same years, Dr. Teresa Burke from Philadelphia, who was researching abortion, and she and her husband Kevin got Rachel's Vineyard started independently of me. However, once I went into full-time pro-life work, which happened in 1993, I got to know them right away because, in the circles of the pro-life movement and its national activities, I got to know them right away. And what happened was that we saw that our paths were very similar. And after a while, we started collaborating. And then, but it took another, let me think now, 10 years or so. And then they came to me and they said, we'd like to put our ministry under yours, so we could provide for them the administrative help, the infrastructure, so that they could do the work of healing those that have had abortions.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, can you kind of walk through, for the folks who are not familiar with Rachel's Vineyard, the kinds of services you provide and the kind of work you do?
It's based on a weekend retreat program. So people who have had abortions go through a lot of suffering, and I'm sure that among our listeners now, there are some who have been through that. Certainly, most of us know people who have been through that. And so we provide a compassionate, confidential, professional setting in the form of a weekend retreat whereby people can face up to what they did, process the different conflicts within them. It's an approach that is based simultaneously on Dr. Burke's psychological research, looking at abortion as a traumatic event, and using the healing mechanisms that help people get through any kind of trauma, and combined with biblical passages and the belief in the power of Christ and of the Word of God and the sacraments of the church, if one is a Catholic. There's a Catholic version of the retreat and also an interdenominational version. And this leads people to really advance along the path of healing. Now, healing is a lifelong process, so it's not a magic wand, but it is a catalyst. It is something that gives insight and courage to people to face their wounds and to embark on a healing journey, which is very, very fruitful. So that, in a nutshell, is Rachel's Vineyard.
Well, with the culture the way it is, has it been a struggle? I mean, are there people who are not so much interested in healing? Are there people who have had abortions? We've seen the ads where they're proud of their abortions. Has this been a struggle for this organization?
Well, we have plenty of people coming to us because when a person is hurting from abortion, they don't need anyone to, convince them otherwise. However, we do see the battle exists in the realm of public relations, where there is this effort constantly of those who are supporting abortion to present it as harmless. It's harmless to the baby because they don't acknowledge that the baby even exists. Which of course would lead one to ask, well, then why do you have to have a procedure to remove the baby? But they pretend as though the baby is not real. And they pretend as though the procedure has no harmful effects on the mother. But you ask those who've been through it, and if they're honest with themselves, they will say, no, this doesn't solve any problems. This just causes more problems. So, but there is a battle to get the truth out there about how harmful abortion is. And that's why there's another aspect of our work that has grown out of the Rachel's Vineyard healing process, and that's called Silent No More. People who have been through the healing want to share their story. They want to tell the world that abortion doesn't solve any problems, it only causes new ones. And we have given them a platform to do that. So we have abortiontestimonies.com, for example, a website where people can sort through thousands of testimonies, watch them on video, read them, and come to realize that if people are sold this bill of goods that, hey, abortion is going to solve your problems, that's the farthest thing from the truth.
So, as you've done this over a decade or more of this, Has this really grown into more of a national movement? I mean, it started there in New York City, but have you found now that it reaches from sea to shining sea?
It does. Both Rachel's Vineyard and also Priests for Life are international movements now, and Silent No More as well. So we serve in dozens of countries. There are Rachel's Vineyard retreats around the world. And the broader ministry of Priests for Life includes Rachel's Vineyard, but we do a lot of other activity as well: education, broadcasting, publishing, speaking in churches, conventions and seminars, prayer vigils. We do political activity, legislative, lobbying activity. We do a whole gamut of things, helping the pregnancy centers, etc. And yes, we do this. We're predominantly active in America, all 50 states, but many other countries as well.
So, as you went through all of this, is that what kind of led you to Right Side Broadcasting, or did they find you?
Oh, right side broadcasting is so wonderful. We saw what they were doing because, as I just mentioned very briefly, the political angle of the pro-life movement has always been on our radar. We know that, we can't engage just in wishful thinking. If we want good laws, we've got to elect good lawmakers. If we want good court decisions, we've got to get good judges in place. So we always believed in the political process and in fostering people's involvement in it. So when we looked at, President Donald J. Trump, when he was first running in 2015, he announced in 2016, his campaign and everything. We were convinced that this was the right man. I was one of the first Catholic leaders to get behind him and tell people that he was the one that could really help our movement. Then I saw Right Side Broadcasting coming to the fore because, as you know, they were covering his rallies in an uninterrupted, unedited way, which is so needed. So we reached out to them and we said, listen, we love what you guys are doing. We want to let you know what we're doing because, we're trying to do the same thing. We're trying to introduce people to the candidates. We believe in President Trump. We want to help people get involved, et cetera, et cetera. So we got to know each other in those early years, and the relationship just blossomed. Now, the way I got my program, what was started to happen was, first of all, they brought me to some of the rallies and they had me help them to co-host and be a commentator during the rallies. And that was a beautiful experience. And then, of course, we reached the fast forward to the elections of 2020. And we all know what happened on election night and the chaos that erupted for, between election day and inauguration day. And so the folks at Right Side Broadcasting, are men and women of faith as well. And they said, look, we need to pray. We need to pray for our country, for President Trump, for the right outcome of this election. And so we started these nightly prayer broadcasts, and we were getting tens of thousands of people. And that people to this day say to me, Right Side Broadcasting got me through those tumultuous months. It was a lifeline. We just kept it going every single night, right up to the inauguration of Joe Biden. And then at that point, we said, you know what? We have to keep praying for America because with Biden as president, we know that there's going to be a lot of damage done. So that's when they said to me, listen, you take this program, we'll call it Praying for America, and you go do this for the people. And we've been doing it ever since.
We've been tuning it in on a regular basis, and you kind of alluded to this earlier, but do you feel like you're a bit of a lightning rod now for the faith community on the right side?
Well, it's a beautiful lightning rod in a beautiful way. A lot of
Yes.
people find us. They communicate with us. They tune in. We do a lot of broadcasting here at Priest for Life, but our programs on Right Side Broadcasting really end up getting the biggest draw, the biggest audience, because people also know me from. I go to the CPAC conferences, Turning Point USA, Ralph Reed's Road to Majority, all these different gatherings. And so the beautiful thing is, as folks who go to these things know, we are a community. We're a community of believers. We're a community of patriots, and it's just beautiful. And so we all reinforce each other. And yes, people just love it. We and I love communicating with them in this way.
As a lightning rod, I rather meant, do you get in your emails and text messages, other communiques, professions of faith, people who have come back because of being able to see you on a regular basis on RSBN?
Well, yes, we get that too. And, it's an interdenominational audience. And so there's a lot of folks who are Catholic that'll listen. And there's a lot of folks who, maybe they used to be Catholic, or they've joined other denominations, or maybe they're simply Christians, of different backgrounds. And we feel like all one big family, but many people do say, that these kind of programs, they do two things. They give them hope. That's one of the two things I hear most frequently. This gives me hope, and thank you for speaking the truth clearly. Because I think in the world of politics as well as in the church, we want leaders who speak clearly and courageously. Otherwise, they're wasting our time. Whether it's in the pulpit or at a press briefing coming out of the White House, we don't want people wasting our time. Just today, I was with our governor here in Florida. Governor DeSantis signed another great piece of legislation today, making it possible to use gold and silver as currency in ordinary day-to-day transactions. And he put the state of Florida on that footing. When he speaks, you're not wasting your time. He speaks clearly, truthfully, forcefully. And people want that, and that's what I try to give in these Praying for America programs. And that's one of the things I hear most from people, that they appreciate that, and that makes them, stronger in their faith as well.
Invariably, it seems like you have much more material than you can shoehorn into the amount of time you're
Oh,
given.
that's true, isn't it? Yeah, there's always more to say. I sometimes feel like we're just given pointers. Say, hey, look, here's what's going on here. Look into that more deeply, and here's over here, and look into that more deeply. So yeah, it's always kind of like that.
Well, in the news cycle, we now have a new pope, Pope Leo, first American pope. What's your take on him as the leader of the Catholic Church?
It's a breath of fresh air, first of all, to have somebody who is new, first of all. A lot of us in the church and beyond felt like the last 12 years were painful. They were confusing. Pope Francis is just, making a lot of people scratch their heads and shake their heads, say, what is this man saying? What is he doing? So it's refreshing just to have a change, first of all. Secondly, Pope Leo is much more disciplined in his language, in his way of speaking and teaching. He teaches clearly. He obviously wants to teach the faith as it is understood by the church, because the Pope is a steward like the rest of us. It's not up to the Pope to decide which parts of the faith are true, or which ones he's going to talk about. He's responsible to the entire body of teaching that's been handed on. And he strikes me as somebody who is doing that and is going to continue to do that. I have some associates here at Priest for Life who know him, because he belongs to the Augustinian religious order, and our associate director here at Priest for Life is also an Augustinian. So he knew him from seminary days. So I hear a lot of good things about him. We'll see how he does. So we got to give him time to let the church and the world get to know him better. But so far, so good.
Well, you are more plugged in than a lot of us. And in the early days, he's called for unity in the church. He's called for reform for the church. And the one thing that kind of struck me, he's already spoken out against teaching transgenderism or
Yes.
homosexuality, things that go against the Bible. So he seems to be much more biblically imbued than other popes that have been in the past.
I would say so. Pope Francis, for some reason or another, would always give these little winks and nods, these little signals of support to the left, whether it's the open borders people or the trans LGBTQ plus, all this nonsense. He would give these little signals of support, and that's very inappropriate for a pope to do. Very inappropriate for anyone to do, because that stuff is insanity. And I've been pointing out in my pro-life work that, and maybe you've heard me say this, that the same lie, and it's a lie and it's a rebellion against God's truth. When you say a man is not a man, a woman is not a woman, is the lie behind saying a baby's not a baby. We look at the baby in the womb and, we've got this pretense going on that somehow that is not a human being like the rest of us, whereby all along, biologically, scientifically, genetically, we know beyond a doubt that that's a human baby. Just like we know beyond a doubt, biologically, scientifically, and genetically, that a man is a man, a woman is a woman, and you can't, just like you can't change from one to another just based on your choice, so you can't change the reality that that's a baby in the womb just based on your choice. So we've got to get back to biological reality. And that's why I was so heartened by President Trump's executive order, establishing that, hey, there are only two genders as far as American federal policy is concerned. And he called the order, he said, we have to restore biological truth to the federal government. And isn't that a breath of fresh air? It's like, yeah, there's such a thing as truth, and it's not up to us.
Do you get much feedback from your Catholic viewers via email or other communications about how they feel about Pope Leo, at least in the early days here?
Oh, we certainly do. It's the number one question these days, and a lot of people are hopeful. A lot of people are expressing sentiments like I did just now, and a lot of others are, they're saying, well, let's be cautious. Rightly, many are pointing out that we're going to get to know the man better by the appointments that he makes. Just like in politics, personnel is policy. You try to make the best choices, but you realize the people you're going to choose to head up different agencies and offices, and they're the ones that are going to be shaping the policy, and so you have to choose wisely. And Pope Leo has started making these kinds of appointments, and we'll see how that pans out. But yes, it's a very frequent topic of discussion. A lot of prayers for the new pope, and we have a prayer campaign at prayercampaign.org, and it's been a focus of attention now for some weeks.
We're talking with Father Frank Pavone, Praying for America, Right Side Broadcasting, also with Rachel's Vineyards and Priest for Life. Let me ask you, while we're talking about world leaders, have you had an opportunity to pray with President Trump?
Oh, yes, a number of times, together with other pastors. It's a beautiful experience to pray with him. He really believes in the power of prayer. When he was first elected on that historic night in 2016, as the votes were coming in and the states one by one were going his way, one of the things he said as he was sitting in that room was, "It's the prayers. It's the prayers." He really believes in the power of prayer. And I'm sure, as all of us have observed, that since that assassination attempt last summer, he's really gone to a new level of faith in God, trust in God, and prayerfulness. He knows his need for protection. He knows the need for America to have protection because he knows the enemies that we have. So praying with him has always been a very meaningful experience, not only because, you're praying with the President of the United States. That by itself is very moving, but knowing how firm he has stood, knowing how many fierce enemies he has overcome, that adds a dimension to it. Praying with him, knowing that he, better than most people, understands what prayer means. People might say, "Oh, I don't know, he doesn't seem to be very much of a religious man." He's not the kind of person who brings his faith, to the forefront in his conversations. In fact, he tends to do the opposite. He keeps his faith very private, but that doesn't mean it isn't very real. It is very real, and we've been able to see that in those moments of praying with him.
Well, there's many of us who believe it was the hand of the Lord that kept him from that bullet.
Oh, yes. We saw a miracle in front of our eyes that day.
Amen. Yes. That it was for him, and as he tells the story, it was a slide that they doesn't normally call up on a screen that it's not supposed to be on. He doesn't turn his head when he turns his head, and you and I are probably having a much different conversation. So yeah,
Yes.
a lot of us believe that that was the hand of the Lord. And did you see a change in him? Nothing to me would make me change so much as having a bullet whiz by my ear.
Well, I think that he has, and he has said it. He has said that how much it has impacted him, and I think that he puts a lot more of what he is doing in the explicitly in the hands of God. But I think that this amazing, when you put it, you step a few steps back, this second term has been absolutely historic in the pace and the intensity and the courageous actions he has taken to change things, right? Whether it's globally or domestically. I mean, look at what he's doing. He's destroying the strongholds of that the Democrats always rely on. Look at what he's doing with the media. I'm taking media outlets to court, for goodness sake. Look at what he's doing with the universities, another stronghold of Democrat ideology. What he's doing to Harvard, calling these universities to task and taking serious action. What he's doing with the world economy, this tariff activity. He's got a plan, and this plan is going to work, and it's already bearing tremendous fruit. You take a step back and you look at this in the light of that attempted assassination. And of course, there was more than one also, but we remember that day in Butler, Pennsylvania, above all. And it's like there's a definite connection here. You saw this miracle, and it's like he understands, and he said it. God saved my life because he has given me a mission to save America. When you have that experience, you're going to go into that mission of saving America with a rocket ship behind you. You're going to be like, nothing's going to stop me now. We are going to go full speed ahead. And it's like the energy that he has day after day. He had already proven himself to be a very energetic man. But I think this has supercharged him. And that's one of the reasons why we see such decisive and just rapid fire, intensive activity in just these few months now that he's been in his second term.
Father Pavone, you have Praying for America over on Right Side Broadcasting. There's Rachel's Vineyard, Silent No More, Priest for Life. Do you have any new initiatives that you're looking at moving forward with?
Oh, yes. And one of them is we are going to help the American people to focus on late term abortion. And this is something that has always concerned President Trump, too. And he has spoken out about it both in his first and second terms. That we have a situation in this country where we are among only a handful of nations that would allow abortions in the sixth, seventh, eighth, even ninth months of pregnancy, even if it's a healthy mother carrying a healthy baby. And this is just so crazy. Now, we have the evidence, and we're going to put more evidence up at another special website called lateabortion.org. And what we're going to do is invite the American people to take an honest look and say, look, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, we already have a consensus in America that if a healthy mother is carrying a healthy baby in the sixth month of pregnancy, she should not be allowed to have an abortion. I mean, people who are pro-choice can adhere to that because she's already had time to make a choice. Now, we believe that every abortion is wrong. We don't think someone should ever have a choice to kill a baby. But what I'm saying is that the pro-choice people can converge around this also and say, yeah, okay, so she had a choice. But now, 6 months along, that's it. You don't have any choice anymore, any more than you would have a choice 2 months after the baby was born. So this is a project we're going to do. We're going to point out the places where babies are. You can make appointments today in America at a number of abortion facilities. If you're a healthy mother carrying a healthy baby in the seventh month of pregnancy, you can make an appointment to have that baby aborted. And this is just outrageous. And we believe that by shining a bright light on this, we can bring together the American people across the spectrum. of pro-life, pro-choice, Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, because just about everybody recognizes that that goes too far. So that's a project that folks will be hearing a lot more about as the months go on. And again, lateabortion.org is the website that we have for that project.
Father Pavone, you can hear Praying for America with Father Frank Pavone weeknights at 8 p.m. At Eastern Time on RSBN. What is the best? Is there one good website that has maybe all the links that we've discussed today and all the different sites?
Yes, yes, and appropriately, it's called Pro Life Central. So, prolifecentral.org. People will see the different branches of our ministry, including our broadcasting and praying for America. So, prolifecentral.org. We invite everyone to come there, connect with us on social media, take part in our projects and our prayer campaigns. We invite everyone's involvement and we welcome them with joy.
Father Pavone, I cannot thank you enough for your time today and all the work that you've done for such a long time. And again, for the folks who want to see him live and in living person, Praying for America, Right Side Broadcasting, 8 p.m. Eastern on RSBN. But also there's Rachel's Vineyard, Priest for Life, Silent No More, the late term abortions. And give me that omnibus site one more time.
The site is prolifecentral.org.
ProLifeCentral.org. Father Pavone, thank you so much for your time, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you on TV, okay?
Thank you, Barry. God bless you.
God bless you. You've been listening to the Barry Foster Show. Remember, if you have any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions, you can reach us at the Barry Foster Show at gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.